The i8 Roadster was not the only interesting car that BMW has in its stall at the Detroit Auto Show. They also have this. This is the all-new BMW X2. So let's take a closer look at this car. The front of the BMW X2 has the traditional BMW characteristics. For example, the twin headlamps, in this case the BMW LED lamps, and in the front the two large kidney grills. Kind of looks similar to the new BMW X3, but I think it has a character all of its own. The front grille is very large with large intakes. As you go down you have a more brushed aluminium effect plastic lower section of the bumper. The side is a little bit more aggressive with these flares lower down on the bumper and these fake air vents, which are not really air vents at all because they're closed, but it's a common practice now. And there's also a little bit of an air channel here in the side, which helps make the car a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more aerodynamic. The BMW X2 comes with a variety of petrol and diesel engines. So far we know that in the North American market you will have a special 28i, which is the engine that you see here. This makes 220 horsepower. It made it to the BMW X-Drive four-wheel drive system. As you can see, this is a transversely mounted engine layout, but this engine will not be available in the European markets. Back home in Germany, we will get the 20i and the 20D, as well as the 25D. The side profile of the BMW X2 kind of looks very similar to the rest of the X lineup, including the X1, but I think it has its own taste. We have this brushed aluminium effect wheel arches, which are squared off, the same color that we saw in the front in the lower bumper. You have the M Sport wheels, which are optional in this with the 20-inch size. Really big, really bold. As you go down the side, it's very taut. It's a very clean design with one main design line which goes all the way to the top and the back of the car. As you can see, it kind of slopes upwards. It gives that kind of a fast, swooping kind of design. You know, the windows also taper upwards, but at the same time, the roofline kind of comes down ever so slightly. So it's a very sportive design. I think this is the best angle for the new BMW X2. I really like this back end of the car. My cameraman, Mr. Michel, behind you can't see him, he also likes these tail lamps, and I agree with him. It's got a very sculpted design. Spoiler on the top with a little bit of a split in the middle. A small rear windshield. Let's see how that plays out in terms of visibility. We'll hop inside later and check it out. But I really like the flowing lines and the haunches over here in the light and the shadow, and the sculpted tail lamps kind of brings it all together. Makes the car look really wide and really squat down, very sporty, not really much of a crossover. That is until you come down here and you notice that the brushed aluminium grey bumper is there, which kind of lends that off-road character to it. And as with almost all BMWs, we have real exhaust tips, and twin ones that too. One on this side and one on this side. And last but not least, let's just take a quick look at the badges. We have the BMW badge, the X2 badge, and X-Drive, which is the all-wheel drive system, the asymmetric all-wheel drive system that BMW employs. And like I said, the 28i, which is a only North American engine option. Up goes the hatch. Fairly decent loading area. Doesn't seem that huge, but I would say at par with the segment. You have some power sockets on this side, a net to put away some smaller items. Wow, and this is pretty cool. You have a lot more space underneath. And The seats fold down. I'm trying to look for the latches to fold the seats. Don't seem to have them here. So I'm guessing we have to go up to the front. So -2 points for that. Let's take a look inside the front seat. There's a very large door panel over here. Materials up here are okay. They're not that soft, but fairly all right. A nice textured element inlay over here with some aluminium effect plastics. Some softer padded materials over here. And hard plastic down for the door bin. Let's hop inside. Before we do that, just you can see here that we have memory for the seat and controls over here, including things such as the under thigh support and lumbar support. So pretty good seat in terms of adjustments. Getting inside is fairly easy and comfortable. This is a crossover, so it's a little bit higher off the ground. The body is also fairly tall, at least right here. So it's pretty comfortable. The B-pillar does kind of come into your shoulder space, but I think it's not that bad. Let's see if the seats are moving. Oh, there we go. They are. It's a bit slow. I think the battery's... Oh, well, that's about it. But anyway, this seems to be quite close to my driving position. You can also adjust the steering wheel for reach and rake. Steering wheel, as usual with BMW, we have a nice M Sport steering wheel, really nice grip, circular completely, paddle shifters for the transmission, your stalks and the digital instruments. But of course this is it's not a full TFT screen as such, it's not a full LCD screen rather, sorry. It has permanent inlays for the dials, but let's see if I can turn this on. No, unfortunately, I cannot show you guys. We'll take a look at this later on. In a couple months, Thomas will be reviewing this car, so make sure you stick around, and he will obviously do his trademark Autogefühl Thomas review in depth. Very familiar layout that we have come to know and expect from BMW. That textured element that we saw on the door continues through the dashboard. Gives it a nice effect, breaks up the monotony of the black color. The nice chrome line along the bottom of that as well. Air vents, the infotainment system, your buttons for your presets and audio control, climate control with seat heaters, dual zone. And down here we have some storage, which is kind of interesting. I don't really like this two-way splitting mechanism. This one goes up just a very little bit. You're forced to open this as well. And another thing I just noticed is when you have this down and you close this, then you knock this one up again, then you're forced to kind of pinch them together. I think they should have just had one single sliding piece. You know, I don't really like this, but anyway, you have cup holders, a small place to drop your phone, and this is a fairly interesting gear lever. It's quite high, it's quite tall. It's not the smaller flickable gear shift lever from the 3 Series and upwards. It's more taller. It's pretty nice. Driving mode selectors, and yes, your command unit down here. And you have an armrest with some phone. Oh, this has a phone clamp, so you can drop your phone inside here, and then it will automatically come up and hold it in place. And this is an inductive charger, so that's a pretty cool feature. I really like that. Let's give it a shake test. And I think I knocked your camera, Michelle. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, it doesn't rattle too much, so it's pretty good. The whole thing goes up, and there is yet more storage on the inside. Lastly, a very large panoramic sunroof as well. Lets in a lot of light and makes this cabin seem bigger and brighter. Let's take a look in the back seat. The rear door is surprisingly long because of the way the body is shaped, but the opening is really wide, even down here. Very good access. You can easily load your child seats. Also, ISOFIX points on the outside 2 seats. So I like this design. It's very ergonomic. The door is also fairly large, and the same materials that we saw in the front are continued down here. Stepping inside is again very comfortable. There's the raised ride height. As you can see, there's also LED lights for the mood lighting in the back seat as well, and always an added plus point. The seat in the front is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters. As you can see, I have plenty of leg room. I can slide my feet under the front seat as well. Knee room is pretty good. The seat is also scooped out on the sides and the back to allow for more leg room as well. A net to put some magazines. Air conditioning vents. No third climate zone. We'll have to see if that's an option that you can get later on. 12-volt power socket. Central armrest with cup holders inside. The transmission tunnel is also fairly low, if you can look down here, so it's not that bad. Let me see how it is in the middle seat. Yes, it's actually not that bad. I have plenty of headroom. They have also scooped out some extra space back here on the roof lining to allow for people with who are a little bit taller. The footwells are also fairly large, so you can easily fit 3 people here. It'll be a pinch for long distances, but for short distances, I think 3 adults in the back can manage without too much of a problem. Since we saw in the back that you couldn't fold the seats from there, you can fold the seats with this tab right here. You pull this and the seat tumbles downwards. As you can see, it's a 60-40 fashion, and they do lay flat with the loading lip in the trunk, although there is this gap, which I don't know why, and you cannot move this further back, but at least it's a flat loading lip. I'm pretty excited to see what the BMW X2 holds in store, and we will be having a full review of this pretty soon. Thomas is going to be driving this later on in a couple months, so make sure you stick around for that. Starting price for the 20i, in Germany at least, is around 38,400 euros. It's a little bit expensive, I know that, but you already get a lot more features as compared to the X1. But if you want the 28i, it'll be a little bit more expensive, at least in the US, because that's the only place you get that engine. But overall, I think it's a very promising car. It does fit in very nicely between the X1 and the X3. It's a little bit bigger. There's a lot more space on the inside, which is really impressive. Even though it is a crossover, you have that advantage of having a little bit of a higher ground clearance for rough roads and a little bit of a higher seating position. It's still very car-like. It's still wide. It looks very coupe-like. It looks very hatchback-like. So I think it's kind of a good compromise between the two worlds. What do you guys think? Do you think it's an interesting car, or do you think it's just another derivative crossover like everybody else is doing? Let me know in the comments below.